Hello and welcome to a first impression of Reigns Game of Thrones. This is the third game by Nerial in the Reigns series, and as in the previous games it gives you control over a kingdom through a swipe left or right decision-making process. The gameplay is deceptively simple but addictive, so let's take a closer look. Before we get started, I do need to warn you that this game uses characters and settings from the TV series and the most recent Game of Thrones season, so if you're not caught up, possibly major spoilers ahead. Now, there is no menu screen. When you start the game, it takes you straight into gameplay, either choosing a ruler for you or picking up where you left off. In my case, I perished as King Tyrion last time. Lady Melisandre does inhabit these in-between mission frames. Before we get started, let's take a quick look at the options menu and see what's under the hood in this game. Now this is a crossover game between desktop, PC, and mobile, so not a whole lot of options in here, but the requisite music and volume sliders. Able to choose a language here. There's no spoken dialogue, but this should change the text at least. And then screen resolution, which is a nice addition, as well as the option of full screen or windowed mode. Trailers or credits there available as well. Just a few other things. Some notes as to the current mission you're on, and the different achievements that you can get recorded here as well. Gives you a little bit of ability to track the subplot of the game as you progress through it. Now, gameplay is unique from other Reigns games in that for each playthrough you choose your character from this menu, and the character you choose changes the setting, choices, and other characters that you will encounter during your reign. The underlying story and progression is tied to unlocking more characters to choose from. I still have these 4 to unlock, and we'll go into that a little bit later on. Choosing a character from this screen, let's try Lady Sansa.
Yeah.
Long may she reign. From the screen you can see the 4 resource bars along the top of your screen. And here's the card. We have the choice of swiping left or right. In some cases it's just telling you about an event, in which case it doesn't matter which way you swipe. In most cases it gives you 2 choices, each affecting the resources across the top. These resource icons reflect military strength, religious favor, domestic popularity, and wealth. It will indicate how much of an effect it has, but it will not tell you whether it is a negative or positive effect. Oftentimes there'll be multiple resources affected, and it could be any combination of positive or negative effects across the board. Sometimes it depends on the character and their perception in the Game of Thrones story, so it can be helpful to have some knowledge of the TV series when you're trying to make your decisions and how they'll affect your resources. But for the most part, they're pretty self-evident or equally murky whether you have a knowledge of the TV show or not. As you make your choices, the goal of the game really is to balance these resource meters, always trying to keep them from becoming either completely full or completely drained. The longer you can keep things balanced, the longer you'll stay in power. Eventually winter does come, and the choices you make have greater and greater effects on these resources. I haven't made it past winter yet, so I'm not even sure if that's possible. Along the way there are separate events like battles and tavern brawls and jousts, as well as multiple opportunities to have targeted effects on a resource. Now, other than simply trying to survive as long as possible on the throne, you're also trying to complete these bonus bonus objectives in the bottom right corner. If you can complete some of them, then after your reign is over, you'll unlock new characters to play, who may in turn be able to complete some of the other specific bonus objectives. And this is kind of how you advance the subplot of the story. Each time you die, Melisandre talks about her search for the new king, and sometimes advances the subplot of the game through her dialogue. I haven't finished the game yet, but if it's like the other Reigns games, the more you play and the more you unlock, the more the subplot unravels, and things kind of start to get more and more interesting beyond the core gameplay loop. So here in no particular order are my pros and cons for Reigns Game of Thrones. Pros, it has an interesting and unique art style. It is set in the Game of Thrones universe, which is definitely a pro if you're a fan of the series. It's good for a quick game. You can pick it up and play for 5-10 minutes at a time. The subplot and unique characters and character choices do offer more replayability than you might think from the simple kind of core gameplay loop. But as a con, it is a somewhat repetitive gameplay loop. You're doing the same things over and over. Eventually, and to some extent, it takes a while to unlock some of the characters, so you end up replaying the same characters. Mechanics for me were not initially intuitive. Not having played the previous Reigns games, I wasn't sure exactly how the resources across the top were affecting my playthrough and what I was supposed to do with those. I had to go online and look up that information. It would have been nice if that was hinted at or more clearly explained somewhere. And it could be a con that it's set in the Game of Thrones universe if you're not a fan, or if it's not something that you're particularly interested in. I would recommend this game, especially if you're a Game of Thrones fan. It's an easy choice, $5. It's fun to pick up for 10 minutes at a time when you have a moment, or if you're on break at work, if you get the mobile version. If you're not a Thrones fan, there's still some interesting gameplay mechanics and kind of wacky situations that you find yourself in that make it a fun time. Thank you for watching. Please leave any comments or questions below. This has been Vaedryn. I'll see you next time.